The New York Knicks in this upcoming draft have to find a way to get their answer at the wing position. Look at the NBA. It's dominated by wings. The Kawhi Leonards, the Jason Tatums, the Jaylen Browns, the Jimmy Butlers, so on and so forth. And granted, we don't have to try to get a first-tier option. Look at the second-tier guys. The guys like Mikal Bridges, who had a great season for the Suns, is now probably one of their foundational pieces going forward. Look at what guys like DeAndre Hunter did to the Knicks in the playoffs. Neutralized a lot what we were trying to do on offense and came in hitting big shots and in mid-range were able to post up, use his physicality on us. And on the flip side, no offense to Reggie Bullock, had a decent season for what he wasn't able to use physicality or leverage, drive him to the basket, couldn't post up on a guy like Trey Young, which held our offense back and left us in a disarray. Kind of contributed to us losing that series, even though there's some other things, Tom Thibodeau not adjusting. But anyway, before we get started, hit the like, subscribe to the channel. Make sure that you hit the dark notification bell so you get each and every notification for each and every video I put out. It's your boy Game Kia Skate, Legion of Knicks. Without further delay, God bless Rock. Now, when you look at the wing position for the Knicks, obviously is being helmed or was being helmed this past season by Reggie Bullock, who is now a free agent. And according to sources, he's looking for a deal at 4 years, $47 million. I'm not paying that for no stopgap wing, especially in the 30s, is around 30, 31, I believe, in age. No offense to Reggie Bullock, did a good job. I'm trying to get some wings in this wing-rich heavy draft, whatever you want to call it. But before we get started, I actually want to analyze something I saw regarding our own front office, and that's regards to Walt Perrin, who is the assistant GM in charge of college scouting. Obviously, last year we picked Obi Toppin, who I think was more of a Leon Rose's son pick, because he doesn't really fit some of the profiles that you've seen Walt Perrin kind of favor. And obviously Scott Perry just got resigned. He's with the front office as well, and his draft record is kind of spotty. When you look at Walt Perrin, he has a pedigree, was pushing up for guys like Donovan Mitchell. Rudy Gobert was a guy he fell in love with, was enamored with. I know you want to say whatever about Rudy Gobert, he's still one of the best defensive centers in the league. So when you look at Walt Perrin's record, it's fairly sterling. He's had some great hits working with the Utah Jazz, but I want to focus on the wing position because there's some interesting things that we could gather regarding how he thinks about the wing position, or how he's thought about in the past, and why I think that we need to rely on Walt Perrin in this upcoming draft. So looking at Walt Perrin's history regarding wings, I want to focus on three guys. That's CJ Miles in 2005, Ronnie Brewer in 2006, and Paul Millsap in the second round of 2006. Now, when you look at CJ Miles, he's the last of the high school kids before the NBA shut down that pipeline. Perrin liked the upside he saw in CJ's game as this long arm, lanky wing who could do everything relatively well in high school. He could bring up the ball, he could shoot, defend, control the boards. When you look at guys like Ronnie Brewer, Perrin liked the long arms and defensive chops. At Arkansas, was a fan of the defensive intensity he showed for 3 years, becoming one of the best defensive players coming out of college. He also liked the pedigree of Ron Brewer, given that his father, Ron Brewer, played 8 seasons in the NBA. When you look at Paul Millsap, he was valued for his double-doubles at Louisiana Tech and earned 3 NCAA rebounding titles. He was also a good mid-range shooter and an underrated defender who's disciplined and known for not falling for fakes and be able to hold his position. And this brings up my first option, which is fairly obvious at this point since he's moving up a lot of mock draft boards and getting all these workouts and second workouts, and that's my boy Trey Murphy from Virginia. But in the Cavaliers' offense, Murphy's offensive responsibilities were a little bit more nuanced, as Tony Bennett installed a more read and react scheme into the offense, one that prioritized positionless basketball and intuitive decision-making of the players on the floor. So although the numbers don't point to it, Murphy was utilized in a plethora of ways on the court, similar to DeAndre Hunter, as his coaches at Virginia were modeling his game as such. But with Coach Bennett tinkering the offense, Murphy's usage was experimented with, but his most reliable spot on the floor was from the perimeter. Yes, the numbers this year don't show the versatility, but look at his play at Rice, where he's the team's best player and was utilized all over the floor, so the potential is there. His weakest offensive category was a pick and roll, as both the ball handler and the roll man. But look at the difference in performance in the cut category. We had the same amount of possessions at Rice and Virginia, but he showed vast improvements. I also think people underestimate his ability to create his own shot. He wasn't asked to do so at a high level at Virginia, as he only had 12 possessions on jumpers off the dribble, going 4 for 12, which is okay, but again, he had way more chances at Rice the year before as their primary weapon, going 10 for 30 for 33%, which ranked very good according to Synergy Sports. And side note, when I watch Trey Murphy with the ball in his hands, he looks a lot more comfortable than the highly touted, but in my opinion, slightly overrated, Moses Moody, where he struggled to create off the dribble and it looked a lot more frenetic and frantic with the ball in his hands. Back to Trey Murphy. Then take into account his defense, where he became vastly more improved on the perimeter when you look at his three-point defense and his rankings against spot-up shots and catch and shoots. The pack line defense at Virginia, the man defense where he has to defend and protect against paint penetration using that invisible line within the perimeter while still be able to hedge, double, and trap at the right time and spot, definitely refined Trey Murphy as an overall defender. The defense dares the opposing offense to beat the team by hitting from the outside, and Trey Murphy still was able to become a better perimeter defender. He was a good catch and shoot defender, had the numbers to prove it, even better at shots off the dribble, as he did a great job of mirroring his opponents, shifting his hips, and using his size and leverage to make life uncomfortable for the ball handler. Mind you, Murphy himself said that he hadn't played defense for the first 18 years of his life before he got to Virginia. And he could defend in the pick and roll extremely well, as he shifts his feet and his hips really well and uses height and leverage to agitate the ball handler. And that showed this year for Virginia, as he ranked in the 92nd percentile regarding the pick and roll defense. And this was after ranking poorly the year before with Rice in the 7th percentile. You can attribute part of that to Virginia's pack line defense, and given that defense is Tony Bennett's bread and butter, but you don't make that type of jump without having some type of individual defensive prowess. Now, there are some spots for improvement. For instance, he has to become a better rebounder, especially for his size. At 3.4 rebounds a game, that's fairly poor. But he did rebound okay in his last year at Rice at 5.5 a game, with 1.2 of them being offensive rebounds, and was 9 for 14 on offensive rebounds and putbacks at Rice. So his lack of rebounding at Virginia could have been more of a result of his positioning on the outside as a shooter rather than his natural lack of ability. Trey Murphy at 6'9", who could play with the ball in and out of his hands, be able to cut, be an excellent complement to Julius Randle and the double teams he'd be drawing, making that patented leave his feet, which is not good. Cut into open spaces against zone defenses or play on the outside, on the wing, on the corner, anywhere above the break to hit those threes, be able to play alongside guys like RJ Barrett, who's shown he could be a facilitator, playing alongside Andrew Wiggins for Team Canada. Allow RJ Barrett to grow more into that Jimmy Butler or Jimmy Barrett role, as some people like to say. Be able to cut, run alongside him as another weapon on breaks and transitions, playing out in the corners where RJ Barrett loves to kick it out to the guy on the outside off the pick and roll. So again, on offense, he'd be a great addition to this team. On defense, obviously the pack line, the helper defense have similarities in terms of concept and philosophy, where it wouldn't be this big transition for Trey Murphy. He'd be able to come in, use his size and leverage, be able to shift his feet, lead guys into the help defense, be able to play the pick and roll, which is now the bread and butter of the NBA. Wouldn't take him 3 to 4 years to pick up the defense like some of the guys on the team, Kevin Knox. And so there'd be somewhat, I won't say seamless, but fairly decent transition in terms of being easy because of the similarities in terms of the defensive concepts between the pack line and the helper defense. So again, to me, Trey Murphy would be perfecto for the Knicks. Now, some people want to call him Mikal Bridges, some people want to call him DeAndre Hunter. I think he has space to grow offensively. Again, you saw some of it at Virginia. He wasn't asked to do a lot of versatile things on a high level in terms of possessions, but he showed what he could do when he played at Rice. And again, he's been growing as a player on both ends of the floor. He'd be great for the Knicks. I think we might have to trade up a little bit to get him because he's moving up some mock drafts. He's definitely gaining some popularity with some teams in the mid-lottery. Maybe it's huff and puff. Maybe teams still do like Moses Moody and just hope that they can blind some other teams to allow him to fall down. Maybe convince some teams to take Trey Murphy earlier than expected. But I like Trey Murphy. He's there at 19. I don't mind taking him at all. But Trey Murphy be an excellent prospect, 3-and-D, and more for the Knicks this upcoming draft. The next guy up is a truly underrated one, and that's Kessler Edwards from Pepperdine. Now, I get it. The the lack of competition playing in WCC. The only real competition really played against was Gonzaga. They have a feisty BYU team this year as well too. And I get it that many small school wonders don't really pan out in the NBA, but this guy also has 3 years of competition under his belt. And some people liken him to these so-called positional, versatile forwards, guys like Dorian Finney-Smith on the Mavericks or Cam Johnson, who just had a solid year for the Suns. So let's actually break down what Kessler Edwards can do, some of his strengths, and why I think he can fill in this Knicks team. Kessler Edwards can definitely hit the outside shot, as he hit 38% of his threes this past season and averaged about 39.5 of them for his career at 4.1 attempts. His jump shot is a little janky, to say the least, as he leans out on his shot and always lands on 1 foot. But the release is high enough so defenders really don't get a good chance to defend it well off the catch and shoots. And guys like Jaren Jackson have ugly shots that work for some reason. So when he's able to make the shot go off, it goes in for whatever weird reason. I don't really see much of a major issue going into the NBA level. Now, another thing that Kessler does really well is the post-up, a lost art that is only being exploited by talented bigs in the NBA. Although guys like Melo and Kawhi Leonard, Jimmy Butler, Luka Doncic, and even Westbrook still exploit it at a healthy clip. In the post-up, Kessler generated 1.16 points per possession, which was good for 95th percentile. And just look at how we could have used a physical post-up presence on a guy like Trey in the playoffs, who was able to hound Bullock and take him out the game on defense, given the fact that Bullock couldn't use his physicality on drives because he's not really adept at the rim or getting to the rim, or post him up. Just be able to force Trey Young to either deal with the speed of Derrick Rose in the playoffs, the physicality of RJ Barrett, or the post-up prowess of a guy like Kessler could have done wonders for the Knicks' one-dimensional offense. And overall, when the Knicks do post up, it's fairly predictable, as Julius Randle was responsible for 300 of the 368 post-up possessions the Knicks had last season. That's roughly 82% of them. Now, Kessler isn't a great passer from the post or outside of it, but neither was Randle a year prior. Remember, he used to struggle with the double teams coming his way, where all he had to do was just make a simple pass, but typically he'd leave his feet or make the wrong turn into the baseline and give some terrible turnovers. But if you have proper coaching, if you have the proper players flashing, cutting at the foul line or the paint, or just getting into those empty spots in the zone, passing from the post can become a lot easier. The kid also averaged 67.1% of the rim, which is great. Although, according to some reports, he got a lot of naked looks at the rim given Pepperdine's offense. He doesn't have the prettiest of dribbles, but Kessler runs the floor fairly well on cuts to the basket and flashing at the right times. He can take resetting defenders to the cup despite not having an elite first step. Kessler was also a solid rebounder for his position for both the offense and defensive sides, averaging 1.2 offensive rebounds and 5.6 defensive rebounds last season, and 1.7 offensive and 4.8 defensive rebounds for his career. You want a little bit more at the highest level, but I might be nitpicking here. He was a solid rebounder on both ends. Although Reggie Bullock was a decent rebounder, providing 3.2 defensive rebounds at the wing position for his size, I need more with regards to physicality and measurables, and Kessler provides that. On defense, he was a good man defender, giving up only 0.803 points per possession in man defense, ranking out fairly well on spot-up shots, so he can definitely fit the helper defense. We use his speed and awareness to help out on the paint defense, where he averaged 1.2 blocks last season and 1.3 blocks for his whole career, while using his length to reset onto his perimeter assignments. We only gave a 0.852 points per possession on catch and shoots, which ranked good according to Synergy Sports. He can also play the passing lanes, as he averaged 1 steal a game last season. His long arms and solid defensive instincts served him well in being disruptive when reading the offense. And although there's some questions about his foot speed when defending in space, he ranked fairly well in isolation, only allowing 28.6% from the field, and when defending jump shots off the dribble, he ranked in the 79th percentile. Now, this one is a deep second round, or he might not be, I don't know. And this pick is more so about both from the bench, finding guys who could complement Obi Toppin, IQ, as well as Derrick Rose if he comes back as our bench bully, and also having a cheaper option than $20 million allegedly Duncan Robinson, and have our own so-called version of Kevin Porter, and that's my guy Joe Wieskamp from Iowa. Joe Wieskamp had one of the best three-point shots in the NCAA over the past 3 seasons, hitting 41.2% of his threes for his career and 46.2% this past season. According to Synergy, he's also 50.7% on no dribble spot up shots, which ranked in the 97th percentile. Definition of straight gunner. He's also excellent off screens, generating an absurd 1.268 points per possession on off-screen plays for 51% from the field and 69.4% effective field goal shooting, ranking in the 88th percentile. On the flip side, the Knicks were extremely poor, ranking in the 29th percentile and only going 35.2% from the field off of off-screen plays. Again, our offense is mostly predicated off of facilitation, off the dribble. There are only a few pin down screens you saw in the second half for guys like Reggie Bullock to flash at the wing or in the corner for those open shots. So again, our offense was somewhat limited, but again, I don't think we had the talent to do the things that Tom Thibodeau is trying to expand to do. Look at how the Heat used Duncan Robinson, using him on pin down screens, that patented dribble handoff with him and Bam Adebayo near the top of the key at the wings. Not only having a player like Wieskamp opens up the Knicks' perimeter prowess, but it could also open up Obi Toppin's game. Be used as a menacing player in the screen game, and the defense's rush to stop Wieskamp can leave a lot of open opportunities for Obi on the roll off the initial handoff or screens. And yes, he isn't the most athletic, but he's not entirely the slowest. And if he's playing off the bench and exploring a team's tertiary defender like how Kevin Huerter does, we can see him expand his game on these isolation plays. Or he's catching the ball in motion, attacking the cup, similar to how the Hawks use Huerter. So me, I'm trying to find a way to get 2 out of 3 of these guys, either Murphy and Wieskamp or Edwards and Wieskamp. I got my starting small forward for the foreseeable future. Compliments to RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and can help the team on both offense and defense, while having a guy like Wieskamp who become my cheap version of Duncan Robinson or my Kevin Huerter, who if we don't like in the future, or if he wants to have a big payday, you use him to trade off for a bigger piece in the near future. We have to get Tom Thibodeau some solid players. Guys, I'm not saying that we have to have guys with limited ceilings, but these questionable guys, I think is a little bit too much for Tom Thibodeau to ask him to sit there and develop these guys when you already have so many question marks on the team as is, especially given the fact that we only have 6 guys on the contract, and you're still looking at guys like Kevin Knox and Frank, who are somewhat zeros on the team. No offense to those guys, as well as Emmanuel Quickly, as we really don't know we have in Emmanuel Quickly, even though I think that he might be a solid piece for us in the present and the near future. So to me, get me Murphy and Edwards and Wieskamp. Oh, Murphy or Edwards and then Wieskamp in the second. But guys, let me know, am I crazy for liking these guys? Should goes after guys like BJ Boston, who have these high ceilings, I guess, but we don't really know what their flaws are. Should we pivot to other positions like Miles McBride instead of going at the wing position, say in the second round? I like Miles McBride, that's my guy. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a like, share your comments. Please hit the dark notification bell as you subscribe to the channel. It's your boy Game of Kiyosuke. Remember to join me as well as all of the Nothing But Knicks family out in AC, whether you could join us there physically or watch the draft with us. I will definitely have draft coverage on my channel during as well as after the draft to break everything down. So please join us. But until then, peace, salute, God bless. We out.